Hey, what's up, gang? Today we're going to take a look at how to break down your goals into areas of your life that you can then manage. This is a framework that I've pulled together from tons of different sources, including research across about 20 project management softwares, each with their own way of managing the different levels of goals and projects and tasks and all those sort of things. And then also from the Building a Second Brain course, Get Things Done course, also by Tiago Forte, and then the annual review sheet that they have as well. So this is really pulled together from a lot of sources. And hopefully it's something that you'll find really useful. It's been a big difference maker for me. So let's start with a goal. This is the first place we have to go. And by the way, when you want to create your own sheet, you have the headings at the top: goal, focus, area, epic, outcomes. Type them in, you're done. You have a spreadsheet. So my goal is to live a life where I feel like I'm on vacation most days. So that's my goal. That's one I really connect with. I have a vivid image of it. I don't know what country I would be in, but I do know that I'm probably by the beach. More importantly, I know that I wake up each morning with a sense of passion, excitement for what's coming, and also knowing that I'll be collaborating with friends and getting to connect with people I care about, all while building something like a company, working on projects and things like that. So this is a high level definition, and I don't really need to know too much more than that. But I'm going to think about all the things that I'd like to have happen, or what would probably have to happen in order for me to get there. So it seems like you'd go to the second column, focuses. If you already know what those are somehow, that's awesome. Maybe you've been doing this before or have done a similar exercise. When I did this, and it really did take a couple of days, so give yourself some time and space to do this. What you may find is you just max out at a certain point. Your brain is telling you, I don't want to do this. It's a stupid exercise. I'm sick of this. I'm tired of whatever. That happens. So just back off of it a little bit and come back in an hour or a day, whatever it is. It's not about rushing through. It's just about really making sense of our lives and delineating all the areas where we're spending energy. Now, as you go through this exercise, you might find that certain items can go in more than one place. If that's the case, put them wherever they have the strongest impact. Maybe it's an emotional impact. For example, my wife asked me to get into shape, and it's not very motivating from a standpoint of my health because I figure I'm fine. I'm not that motivated. But when it comes to our relationship and ways it could improve our relationship, that's much more motivating. So I put start exercising in that column and not in the health column. I put it where it motivates me the most or where it has the strongest link. So then you might get to your areas and start typing in items. For me, I was typing in things at the beginning of the year like start an email list. And then I don't know what else. I didn't even know I was going to make a website yet, so that wasn't in there. But let's say here, website. What else? For areas, I had personal ops. That's all my automations and my personal systems. And then I have a company I'm trying to close out. And, this could go on for a little bit. And then I have, what else? Family and Marissa, my wife. And this can go on for a while, right? And basically, within each of these, we get to the epic column. Epics are just groups of projects or buckets. So what I realize is, okay, email list, website, those are actually really related to the same thing. Those are related to online offerings. So what I'll do is just move them into Epic and I'll group them under online offering, right? I want to find a way to monetize things online and make some money. So those will definitely be related to it. And then I just keep going like this. And I go all the way through the list until I have a structure. The focus is here. These are really just for the sake of compression, meaning we want to take everything that's going to be under here, just create a really high level division so I can think this big bucket of items. It'll help me just mentally group everything together, because otherwise it can get pretty, I'd say, overwhelming once you've filled this out and maybe you have like 30 or so rows worth of things you want to work on. So just tiering it in that way is really helpful. Now, finally, outcome is critically important. If you can't connect with the outcome, the reason why you want to do this, then it's not going to be very good at all. So I want to start an email list to build an online following that may eventually buy courses from me. Okay, you know, it may eventually is kind of weak, so that will buy courses from me. Okay, so let's say that's my outcome. Perfect. And then I can keep moving on. By the way, if you got this from email and you're never going to buy a course from me, that's cool. I still hope you keep getting these and enjoying and benefiting from them. Here, what's another one? Let's say, I know this was on my list under personal ops. I had VA. And so what I wanted to just start delegating to a virtual assistant, start taking certain items out of my life and delegating them. So my outcome is just start delegating. Oh man, typing problems today. Okay, start delegating anything to a VA. And why is this outcome important? Because when I go to look for a VA, I'm not going to look for one who's executive caliber. I'm going to look for one who can do one or two things, basic things that I can delegate to them, and that's it. I'll stop there. I don't need to be a perfectionist because I've defined the outcome. It's literally just get my beak wet. Just start delegating. That's it. So make sure that your outcomes are one, something that you can connect with really well, and two, kind of give a definition of done so you don't go overboard. With that, let me show you what my actual list from the beginning of this year looks like. All right, so goal, live so that I'm always on vacation. My first focus was build evergreen, which means build systems that will provide ongoing benefits. So there's personal operations, there is my online offering, email list, Twitter, content. You see no website there. Hadn't thought of it yet, if you'll believe that. Hopped into Shape, that's my wife's online training business, and then finance. And so these are the areas I wanted to work on. And that's let's say, building out my financial structures and operational structures is pretty much what that covers. So now when I think build evergreen, I can easily in my mind think about, personal ops, online offering, finance, and so on. It all just fits together really nicely there. Then if I take a look, my next one is spiritual growth. So I have deepening relationships with people. I have community service. I have taking care of my health, playing music. I ended up adding mindfulness here as well. And so those are all items that fit in under spiritual growth. And then last is environment. So I have setting up my home. So improvements, but also maintenance. And as part of my environment is travel. It kind of made sense to me to bucket the two under there because they in fact affect the areas where I am living. So I have 3 high-level focuses, and even though this is a pretty long list of items, and once you get to the epics, which are groups or buckets of projects, it's a pretty long list. They're all really well sorted out and delineated in my mind, and that makes my life much less stressful. Now, let's take an example. A friend of mine said, "Hey, do you want to build a consulting company?" At the time, this was in January, I had just put this together, and I thought to myself, well, which bucket does it go in? What epic or area is it contributing to if I do that? The answer is it wasn't. So I had to tell him no. Normally I'd get distracted. I'd love this idea. It would be exciting. We'd spend like 3 weeks talking about it. Then we'd realize, or maybe even longer, and we'd realize that it's just not a great idea. I don't have time. He doesn't have time. We're going to have to quit on it. I saved all that by just looking through and going, nope, doesn't fit anywhere. Sorry, thank you. I'd love to do it, but I just can't. This gave me a framework for saying no when it was the right decision within the context of my life goals. Now, for those of you coming from the second brain community or familiar with para, you'll recognize areas. And of course, these are my actual areas. So this video is not only how to break down your goals, but it's also an answer to how do I come up with areas in my life that I want to manage. Now, the definition of areas, at least the one that I remember, is they are places in your life or sections of your life where you have an ongoing standard to maintain. And I think that's a great way to look at it. Something else that I always consider is that most of my projects are going to come from an area. If they aren't, then why am I working on them? They're either clearing out an area, creating a new area, or maintaining an area. And it's possible that there's maybe some categories outside of that, but when it's set up like this, everything in my life is accounted for in this sheet. And so every project does actually eventually stem from one of my areas and one of the epics. And that makes sense because epics are exactly groups of projects with similar high level or thematic outcomes. So this is the system, and I just want to show you one more thing, which is my setup in Todoist. And you can see that if you look at my areas, they match exactly this setup. Areas, and then build evergreen, and then personal ops. Pragma Flow is something new. It is a company I'm starting. There's Hopped Into Shape, my wife's business, and the flow, of course, and so on. And then under spiritual growth, you can see that these have evolved a little bit, but this is exactly how I came to my para setup for areas. Out of these areas, I could also derive my project list. Now, the project list comes from both things that you are doing right now that you notice are either obligations or things you seem to keep doing. And that's the bottom-up approach. What I've just shown you up to now is the top-down approach. When you combine the two, you get a pretty holistic lens of what's happening. So by starting with your goal, breaking it into areas, and then also taking a look at what projects you're doing and just making sure that everything from both sides is documented, you can go all the way from goals down to areas, epics, and projects, and then sense check back up. Take all the projects that you're doing. Do they fit into an epic? Do they fit into an area? If they don't, then you either don't have the right areas or you haven't worded them in the right way. Maybe they just need to be a little bit more inclusive, or you're just working on things that don't really matter. It'll come down to one of those three. So with that, this is how I set up my areas. This is how I break down my goals. This is pretty much the core of how I have structured my para system. I hope that's helpful.